Welcome back to the Lipoedema Podcast. We are your hosts, Shell
and Tiana, and a special guest, Nova, who's unwell today. And we are joined by some special guests from Jobst, which is Jennifer Ritossa, who is the clinical lead of lymphology in Adelaide. And we've got Liana Smith, who's the clinical compression specialist in Melbourne. Jen and Liana, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Exciting to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yay, it's a pleasure for us as well, because we love to join our warriors with the people that help them with their condition of lipedema. And that's exactly what you at Jobst do with your compression garments. So to start off, I wonder if one of you could give us just a brief history of Jobst.
Yeah, sure. So the origins of Jobst compression date all the way back to 1950, and a German-born engineer and our founder, Konrad Jobst. So he suffered from chronic venous disease himself, and so experienced those symptoms of heavy, swollen legs. So he refused to accept that doctors couldn't do anything to alleviate those symptoms. So from illness then came innovation. He used to love swimming, and he noticed that he felt weightless while in the water, and it alleviated those symptoms of heaviness. So he used his engineering background to experiment with different elastic fabrics and different netting techniques, and from there made the compression sock that squeezed his leg like the water did, so that wherever he went or was, he never felt weighed down.
Wow, it's so crazy how people living, with conditions or with challenges then rise up and end up creating such an impact, like to help those challenges. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, their own pain point leads them to like these breakthroughs and not giving up. Like when the doctor said there's nothing I can do to help, it's like, no, this isn't the way I should be living. That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it more special as a company.
It does, yeah. And through his innovations, that led to the first compression stockings. So then in the 1980s and 90s, Jobst then pioneered flat knit custom compression, which is a real breakthrough because flat knit will provide firm, consistent compression and containment, while still then being comfortable and able to be customized in many ways that we're still improving on today.
Nice.
I was just going to say, this is probably where I can pop in, because I've been working with Jobst for
A long time.
And in 2008, Jobst developed the first seamless flat knit garment on the market. And then, innovation has been really important to the company. And that was Elvaric Soft. And then we've moved to 3D knitting garments, and several years ago also developed a garment, unique for lipedema presentations and body shapes. I think, it is exciting to work somewhere where innovation is so important, I think. And obviously innovation for us means, you're aiming to get more effective and more comfortable compression for people that are wearing it, which ultimately is the most important thing.
One sounds cool, because I know that my flat knit garments that I have quite a big seam in them. And I think it doesn't bother me, but that seems like a really great feature of Jobst, to have that seamless all around the leg instead of having a seam coming up.
Yeah, I guess that's a 3D printing, or not printing, the 3D manufacture of it.
Pretty cool.
That is really cool.
And
So
look,
can
we
I
have
ask, garment specific for lipedema, would you mind talking to what makes it specific for lipedema?
So our confidence range is designed specifically for lipedema, and I probably should add here that our seamless range isn't across the whole range. We can, just before I talk about confidence, so it's gloves, toe pieces, gloves to elbows. Hopefully one day we will see full leg garments knitted without a seam, and certainly that's, that would be the ultimate goal. Confidence has a 3D knitting technology, so it uses, I guess the first thing it does is it uses more reference points around the limb. So rather than, obviously we have the seam up the back, but when you look at a garment, you'll see what are almost like little tacks in the fabric. And that's where there's contour points in the fabric to follow the shape of the limb, because obviously we're all smaller in some parts of the limb and wider in other parts of the limb. So by having the contour knitting, it allows for a more closer and customized fit. So compression is in contact with the limb all the way around and all the way up the limb. The other thing that is unique to Confidence is it is seamless across the hips. So in a waist-high garment, if any of your listeners are wearing waist-high garments, typically they'll knit like a sort of a knicker or a panty section, and then the two legs will be knitted and it's all sewn together. We know in lipedema that the sort of the fatty distribution that comes with lipedema is often more around the hips and the upper thighs, and that's just the nature of the disease. So Confidence avoids having a seam there that can dig in. So you get that really nice smooth across the hips. Feedback from people wearing it is that it's a lot more comfortable and conformable, also cooler as well. And we hear things like, I didn't realize I was wearing compression. So because you're avoiding those points where it can dig in.
Yeah. I think as well, to add to what Jen said, is it's a great fabric if you haven't been in compression before, to introduce it to flat knit, because it is so contoured, comfortable, soft fabric as well. If you are exercising in it as well, it's a really good option. And because it is moisture wicking, so it does keep you dry and cool, especially in those warmer climates where you are.
That's a good idea. I don't wear compression to the gym. Maybe
No,
I should look
don't
into that.
either. I sort of opt for like the lighter sports compression for gym, just because
Yeah.
they're, made, I suppose, for athletics. But
I love that moisture wicking.
yes,
'Cause
agreed.
some days I'm a bit stinky.
Well,
It's ready, especially Queensland
yes,
and
yeah.
lifting weights and doing the things.
A lot of us dread wearing our compression garments when in spring and summer, just because we feel a bit sweaty and it's hard to take them on and off. So having that added moisture wicking is probably really important for us during those warmer months of the year.
For sure. And I love
absolutely.
how you mentioned about those different points that you make the measurements, because I think the next question will be about the difference between flat knit and circular knit. But I know when you buy just off the rack garment, they don't fit you right, because we are all so different and there's only so much stretch in each area. And when I got my first pair of custom flat knits, I actually thought that they weren't working because I couldn't feel them.
Yeah, because they're just so comfortable.
That's not uncommon.
Yeah.
The move, and I know we're going to talk flat knit and circular knit, but it's not uncommon for people to say it doesn't feel like it's working as well, because it's not tight and it's not rubbing and all those things that we tend to associate
staying in
with
place.
being uncomfortable. But ultimately, the aim should be to get the most comfortable and most effective garment for you.
That's such a good point, Shell. Yeah, because it's so right. My made-to-measure flat knit garments feel like really comfortable. Like I don't feel snatched. Are they doing anything? They're not working. Help.
They're supposed to be uncomfortable, people.
Yeah.
So can we now just delve a little bit into the difference between flat knit and circular knit, and why flat knit is the supreme choice?
Yeah. So I can start us off here. With a circular knit garment, it is knitted on a circular knitting machine, and it's like a seamless tube. So it often is more elastic, stretchier. It does have more of that length stretch. So sometimes that can make the garment harder to pull on as well, because it is stretchier than a flat knit. It is great for people with an anatomically proportional limb. So no folds or cuffs or anything like that, that it will, because it is knitted in a circular way, the tension and compression, the shape is built into the garment by changing the tension of the stitches. So it's smaller at the ankle where there's more tension, and then larger in the calf area where there's less tension. And so the nature of that fabric is that it will try and find that point of least resistance as well. So often if you do have a cuff or a fold, it will sit in that cuff into that point of least resistance and cause irritation. And it's going to be a less comfortable garment for you wearing it. So then, whereas your flat knit fabric, as the name suggests, is knitted on a flat knitting machine that comes off flat, the shape is built into the garment by adding and removing stitches. So you'll see then when it's taken off and stitched together, you'll get that seam. It's often up the back of the garment, so the back of the leg or the back of the arm, which can often help us give a better shape and containment as well for that garment on the limb using that seam. The flat knits tend to be less elastic and stretchy as well, so they won't sit in folds. That will give a better shape. They are easier to don, and like you said, they do feel almost like a second skin. Like maybe they're not working, but they are. And that's how they should feel. They should feel firm like a second skin, not uncomfortable or bunching.
Nice. Very cool. Jen, do you have anything to add?
No, I think we've probably covered. I think the main thing is people talk about circular knits being that real squeezy compression. And like Liana said, it's going to, any area that's softer or, and we know with lipedema, there can be more softness to the tissues and firmer in other areas. So the nature of the garment is that it will try and go into that space there. So, flat knits will just trampoline over softer areas, and we can use the fact that the limb garments do have a seam down the back. We can use that to our advantage to help with shaping, particularly with, I guess, less anatomical shapes where you're, small at the ankle and wider at the calf, because that's the assumption that's made with the circular knit, is that your limb shape, it might be bigger or smaller, but it is still smaller at the ankle, wider at the calf. It's that same sort of proportion at the thigh.
Yes, that sort of makes me think that the appropriateness of using either garment sort of, for our population of people that may be in stage 1 that have a leg that's sort of still anatomically sort of normal, or perhaps our post-surgical people after that post-surgical period, that a circular knit might be beneficial still, and appropriate for them. Whereas those who are, progressed into the later stages, or those that have variation in the size of their
the
legs, disproportion, exactly. And of course, those that are recovering from surgery would really benefit from getting a custom flat knit garment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You summarised that really well.
And I have to say, I have a combination of both, and I don't grab for my circular knits as often as I grab for my flat knits, because my circular knits dig into the backs of my knees where I've got a big cuff there, like that fat pad on my knee, and it hurts so much. And now I know why. Thank you. I didn't know why.
Yep.
So with both, the compression is more at the ankle and is less as you go up the body, like in flat knit and in circular knit. So that's the same across both.
It is. So compression should always be graduated. Yep. So when you're looking at compression, I guess check for that word graduated compression, because there's compression, which I guess would be, some of your sports compression, but they aren't necessarily graduated compression. So they may be that same firmness all along the limb.
Yep. So they're just sucking everything in, but not pushing the lymph up.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's right. So graduated is really important. And I think too, the elasticity in flat knit and circular knit is different by nature, which Liana talked about with that lengthwise stretch and the circumference stretch. So if you're someone who also has a lymphedema component to your lipedema, which isn't unusual, and you have issues with fluid filling up during the day, then a more elastic garment will allow, because it is stretchy, it also will allow that stretch or that pressure. So what a flat knit is doing is providing an external pressure on the outside to try and stop that expansion of the limb, which is also obviously part of what you're trying to achieve with fluid management.
Yeah, excellent. That's a great point about the lymphedema and the fact that, our bodies change in size for various reasons throughout the day. If we're standing a lot,
Depending
like
on what
we're
we're
doing today,
Yeah.
or even if we're sitting a lot, you find that some people swell up because they're just stagnant, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to the process involved in specifically the made-to-measure garments. So say I am newly diagnosed with lipedema. A specialist has said you have lipedema and you need a custom flat knit garment.
Yep.
What am I supposed to do?
We would suggest that the first thing you do is find a qualified lymphedema therapist.
Yeah.
So I realise we're talking lipedema here, but you would know this. But broadly, it's the training is called lymphedema therapist. So they treat lymphedema and lipedema. And I would suggest you're finding someone who's qualified, and you can work with them, and they'll work with you to navigate which type of compression is best for you. Because even within flat knit, there's a whole range of products available. So some are more within the flat knit category, some are a little bit more elastic and finer and softer. Others are a bit firmer. That will depend on your presentation and your symptoms and what you need and what your body will tolerate as well. I guess in terms of how you find them, I would suggest going to the ALA, so the Australasian Lymphology Association website has a Find a Practitioner link on it. So you can pop in your postcode and it'll tell you who's nearby, and they're all qualified lymphedema therapists. You're not on there if you're not. And also the Lipoedema Australia website has lots of resources. And I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but I feel like knowledge is power, and whatever your condition is, I think empower yourself, because ultimately, clinicians are there to work with you and support you with what is best for you. And what you want, what your needs are paramount in that whole process of garment decision making. And even if you need compression, we've said there's lots of different fabrics. There's also lots of different styles. So, and there's, layering and all sorts of different ways that you can come up with, if you need waist high compression, it might be one garment. It might be a series of garments that you alternate or that you're wearing combinations at a time.
And to add to Jen as well, we can work with your therapist as well. If they're not familiar with all of the design options that we can build into a garment, they'll often invite us in and we can go in to assist with what might be best suited to you day to day, your lifestyle. We can add things like functional zones, things called slip forms to help them, sit nicer over the quad and the thigh. So depending on your shape, your day-to-day life, we can build different options into a garment as well that's suitable for you. And as Jen said, layering. So if you don't want to pull on a full pair of pantyhose some days, you might do a capri and a below knee. So there are different options out there as well.
Nice. So the lymphedema therapist will provide that contact point between us and Jobst or whatever company to find the best garment.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Can help with that. If you're engaged, you can then help for the specifics of what Jobst has to offer.
Yeah, exactly. We have a clinical team member in that covers each state and territory in Australia and also in New Zealand as well. So we've got a clinical background, someone in each state, and so we will. And a lot of us are lymphedema therapists ourselves, and so we will actually work with your therapist, and you might actually meet us as well. It's not unusual for us to be invited into clinic as well. And I guess our role is that kind of what can Jobst do in terms of garmenting expertise. So we'll work with you and your therapist to find that best outcome for you.
Jen, you did mention very briefly that there are lots of different, like the product range is huge in terms of colours and stuff. Do you have any that you're particularly excited about that you wanted to highlight in our episode today?
Well, look, I'm glad you asked that. I think we have a range of ready-to-wear and custom-made garments. We've got textured garments and textured pads that you can put under garments. I would say that the real heroes of our range are our custom-made garments. So within the range of custom-made, we've already talked about Confidence fabric. We have Elvaric Soft, which is, so these are all flat knit, so it's soft, it's conformable, it provides a little bit more stiffness than Confidence. So, it may be what is needed if there is a little bit more fluid or a little bit more control needed. We also have Elvarix, which is our first custom garment, the one that was developed, flat knits came in the 1980s and these, but that can be customized to a number of shapes. And we certainly work with therapists, if people have other issues that they're needing to manage, like maybe a stoma or I guess, we've made garments for people that are amputees and also suffer from lipedema. So we can do that as well. And we have textured night garments as well. And the beauty of a night garment is while you're sleeping, you can provide texture to the skin. We know that helps with breaking down fibrosis and stimulating those sort of initial lymphatics on the skin too. So, and colours, Liana, we have across the range, I actually added them up. And we have 22 different colours across
Wow.
ranges. I know. And I think for people who are wearing compression every day, you don't necessarily want the same color. You don't want to wear the same clothes every day. So,
Same beige.
yeah, and even within the beiges though, we now have a range of browns. So we have your light beige right through to your darker beige and your black to reflect the population that we have here in Australia. So
Yeah, when I wear beige, my kids tell me I've
Okay.
got Barbie legs.
do they?
Like Barbie.
Cool.
I hope that's a
Girl,
compliment.
they're the colours. Yeah. We're so different, Shell and I. We're like chalk and cheese. I'm the beige, you're the black, and Shell loves all the
I
colours.
like the colours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good
do
that you
offer
have
is-
all the range.
Yeah, we do offer as well. And you might have seen at the Lipoedema conference recently, our pair of confidence, we can get decorative seams down the back as well on those. So you can get, say, a cranberry coloured garment and a gold seam or a silver or a rainbow. And we have motivational for the waistbands as well. So there are a lot of different options that you can make a unique garment for you.
That's great. It just makes it a part of your fashion and a part of your identity rather than something that you just have to do that's kind of a drag.
Yeah. Makes it
Absolutely.
less subscription and more a fashion choice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
your glasses. You've got fancy glasses on today.
These are from Temu though. And with like you were mentioning before that you can like buy different pieces, like you could have the capri and then you could have the half leg to make it easier to put on. What other accessories and things are available to help with that donning and doffing of garments?
Well, I guess the first thing would be specific donning aids. So we've got a range of donning aids. We've got 4 different ones. There's a more traditional sort of frame type donner, those white frames where you thread your garment over it, and that helps with getting the garment over your foot and ankle, which is often the hardest part.
Yeah.
Then we have more kind of parachute type material ones, so really slippery ones where you put that donner on your limb first, and then that helps you create a frictionless surface to slide the garment on.
Yeah, so more of a slide like they use in hospitals for different things. The slide.
Yeah, it's shaped. We do have a really nifty one with magnets, which for closed-toe garments. And honestly, it is the first time I saw it, and whenever I show it to anyone, it is a real sort of
It blows
wow
it
moment.
mind.
Because you can use it for closed-toe garments. So you can pop the garment on. So you pop the donner on, pop the garment over the top, and then you pull on the donner, and it actually comes out the top of the garment.
Ooh.
So
It
all
is-
those magnets separate and it just, makes it seamless.
Yeah,
It's cool.
it is cool.
Because,
And
a
even
lot of
things-
us in the community have had accidents putting our garments on, hitting ourselves in the head. I elbowed a photo off the wall and broke the frame and the glass. Like it.
Punched myself in the
It's hard work.
face. Yeah. Well, there's also, people that also have arthritis,
Yeah.
issues with
Yes,
their hands.
dexterity
So-
issues.
But also like our arms, if our arms are affected,
True.
they're very weak. Like they can be very fatigued some days. So it's quite the Olympic sport putting on compression.
It is.
Yeah.
And the little glance at the end, get the last little bit on.
Exactly.
The wiggle.
And then when you've done all of that, you want them to stay up when you're out in public, don't you? So you
Oh,
don't want them to be slipping. There's nothing worse than having the crutch of a pantyhose sitting around your mid-thigh, is there?
Oh no, and most of us have fat pads in there too. So then you have the whole chafing and sweating issue, and that's not.
Yeah. There's other things too, other than donning devices. We can add pieces of silicone within a garment. So silicone forms you can have little silicone grippy squares within a garment. You've probably seen it around the top of a garment, like an arm sleeve or a thigh high, but we can actually add grippy squares within a thigh high, for instance. So we could put, if your thigh high is slipping, we could put squares or a band, either or, on, say, the outside of your thigh. You might not want it on the inside because insides of thighs tend to be a little bit more sweaty than outsides of thighs, and sometimes people don't want silicone there. But we can add that. There's things like body glue as well, which is just like a little roll-on, really effective, washes off. You basically put your garment on, fold it down, pop the body glue on in like stripes of it, and then you pull your garment back up and literally pat it on, and it will stay put. So that's useful if you're further down your leg. Obviously, you don't want that at the top of your thigh because you've got to go to the toilet during the day.
Yeah.
So There's lots of different things that you can use.
Yeah, we also have donning gloves as well. So once you have that sort of over that hard part of the foot, you've pulled it up, it's really good to use those donning gloves. They're like sort of gardening gloves or rubber gloves to work the fabric up rather than pull it, dig your nails in. It makes it much easier, and it's better on you and your hands and the fabric as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And not going to rip with our nails. Or...
Yeah. Put runs in you.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
gosh, nothing
Yeah.
worse.
and breaking nails. That's not nice either.
No, you don't want to do that.
I've also seen people use like a baking powder sort of talc as well. Obviously we're not meant to use, like the traditional talcum powder, but you can use a corn flour sort of starch or a baking powder talc. And that just like a really fine dusting of that on your skin before you put the garment on, that will absorb any just moisture that's sitting on your skin. Because you
Help
would
it
know.
glide on.
Yeah, it's just helping reduce that friction. And, again, with your moisturizers, it's really good to moisturize your skin. Do it at nighttime. Let it all soak in. Pop your garment on, again in the morning. So, just all
I
these
think
little.
we've spoken about that before, like making sure, because the last thing you want to do is put a moisturizer on that's going to affect the garment and not make it as effective. So, I'm a nighttime moisturizer girly for that reason, so that I was worried that I'd affect the longevity of my garments as well.
That's true, but also it's harder to put them on
When you're
because you just the moisturized skin, as you said, Jen. If you use like a corn flour or something, it's dry and it will glide on a bit better. But when you've got moisturizer on, it just creates a bit of friction and it's a bit annoying putting your garments on.
Yeah,
I am
exactly.
a morning moisturizer, so I think I might need to change. But I'm a morning showerer. That's okay.
Well, just give it some time.
You have to make sure you leave enough time to dry too. That's the other thing.
There's no time.
And we're in a humid climate. You're always a little wet.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Stand there like this and wait for your moisturizer to dry? That's not real.
Well, that's where your donning device might help, isn't it? So I guess it's finding that balance.
We might have to research that a little more.
Yeah.
So we did now just speak about how moisturizers can affect our garments. How do we care for our garments? Like, what's the best set of standards for care?
Yeah, good question. So we'd suggest washing with a mild detergent, if not a specialized fabric one from the garment companies, and washing, if you can, warm wash, cold wash, warm wash, no more than 40 degrees. So you don't want to hot wash your garments, can cause them to shrink. Ideally in a laundry bag if you're not able to hand wash. So just on a gentle cycle in a wash bag is really good with nothing else in there, because if you do have silicone, you'll get that fluff stuck to it as well. Because if you, we do suggest to care for your garments and get the longevity out of your garments and the correct dosage of compression when you're wearing them every day. We suggest to wash every day if you can, if not at least every other day. So if you think about your compression garment, like your favorite pair of jeans, once you get them out of the wash, they're really tight, hard to put on. And you might do that wiggle as well. Over the course of the day, that the garment fabric is going to fatigue and tire. So they're going to feel looser, and that will happen again over the next few days. So you really want to wash them to get them back to that starting point, so you know that it's providing the correct dosage of compression for you every day you're wearing them.
Good points. I like jeans because I don't wash my jeans basically ever, but I do wash my garments. And last question for you both. Other than through a lymphedema therapist to get a flat knit garment, how else could we get a Jobst?
You can get a class 1 garment, so a 15 to 20 millimeters of mercury garment. You can buy, I guess, without a prescription as such. So I guess when you're buying through a lymphedema therapist, they are checking they're aware of your medical history and whether it's safe to have a higher level of compression. Class 1 garments you can buy through pharmacies. There's also some medical wholesalers that sell to the public as well, and they will also be able to help you out with a class 1 garment.
Awesome. Okay.
Also hospitals, I should say. And so obviously there's lymphedema services in public hospitals. That's going to vary around the country. I'm in South Australia and we've actually got a lot of lymphedema services within our public hospitals, not just in Adelaide as well, in the country areas as well, which is fantastic. And I'm hoping that the rest of Australia has seen, that's really changed over the last kind of 5 or 10 years with a lot more awareness of lipedema. And so more clinicians as well are becoming trained and making it part of the conditions that they're treating as well. So services are increasing. So they're available in public and private, which is great.
But in those public spaces, do you have to have lymphedema, or
That's
will
gonna
they
vary.
see lipedema patients as well?
That's going to vary from hospital to hospital. So
Okay.
I see a bit of a variety. I would check in with your so your GP might be able to advise you there, or you might actually be able to ring ring the hospital, ask for. It's often the physiotherapy department. It might be the occupational therapy department, and you could actually ask that question: how you get a referral in, and what's needed on that referral.
Awesome. Look into that. My neighbour's a physiotherapist. I might have to ask him how I go about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there a way people can contact you directly, or is it all through a therapist?
They can look at our Jobst range through. We've got a website which is www.jobst.com.au, and I would sort of stress the AU there because we've got a website that is unique to Australia. So it shows you what products are available in Australia. There's also a where to buy, like Stockist, Jobst Stockist link on that as well. And there's lots of information about all the different fabrics. So typically you would go to that. There's also a customer service number. Normally we would be contacted by the therapist, but there's still lots of information about products there. And you
we'll
kind
put
of
that in the show notes so people can go have a look.
Yeah, and we also, I know obviously there was the Lipoedema conference last weekend in Canberra. We were there, and Essity, who Jobst is part of the Essity brand, we're at all of the lymphedema and lipedema conferences. And in fact, we've just become the platinum sponsor of Lipoedema Australia, which is very exciting. Yeah, I think we at Essity, we want you to be really empowered with knowledge and to be able to support you. So we're supporting research, we're supporting clinicians, but we also have our products on display at events like that. So by all means, come and talk to us and say hi. So
Definitely.
at the next conference.
Excellent. We did see you. I did say hi. It wasn't you two, but it was two other people that I said hello to. I'm like, I'm Tiana. We're having you on the podcast.
Yeah.
That was lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Well, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you both and to talk about Jobst and their range. It's always good to give a variety to our listeners about what they can access and when. Check the Jobst website, www.jobst.com.au. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jen and Liana, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you to your listeners. Bye. Bye.
The Lipoedema Podcast 2025 is powered by Elegance Lymphatic Care. Lipedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema Podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.